not going to use the Bitcoin blockchain, but sometimes the private blockchain. With the public Bitcoin blockchain, everything is like distributed and shared among many users, and no one can control the whole thing. But if the company is just keeping their own private blockchain and storing data, how you make sure that no one can just create a second copy of that and change everything and make everything looks good? And so are there some techniques already, or?
So this all boils down to best practices. There are no established best practices in this area. So there are people who are talking about potential solutions. So to make sure that if you take the supply chain space where you've got multiple miners, every participant in the blockchain's got a miner. They might have different levels of permissions, whether they're just readers, verifiers, writers. But the smaller your blockchain network gets, the less important blockchain becomes. If it's totally controlled by one manufacturer, then you don't need blockchain, just a database.
Thanks, Simon. Una?
So the smaller the project, then presumably the higher the cost to, how big a project does it need to be for it to be, the cost to make sense, and what are the costs?
So, well, I don't think a small project necessarily needs to be expensive. So I guess when I was talking about costs and those big farms and all of that sort of thing, so that was, again, at scale, and it's just wasted money. But if you're talking about small scale, you're talking about the top many, the number of miners you have are going to be quite small. Even though they will be doing that mining, and that mining is effectively not, it's kind of wasted work really, but I don't think it's going to be massively expensive. You can run this sort of stuff in the cloud very cheaply. So at a small scale, it doesn't necessarily have to be too expensive.
John, and then here.
Yeah, this is more of a technical question with the cost at scale. So you pointed to the mining tools for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
To what extent is that just a function of the particular kind of monetary philosophy that underlies Bitcoin as highly competitive? And so there's an incentive for people to create these large mining tools to gain value on them.
Yeah. So there's this huge money made out of that. There's I think one of the large miners made $350 million last year out of just mining. So yeah, that is definitely an implementation thing on the Bitcoin side. So, but you need to have some sort of consensus algorithm in place, and there are alternatives out there. Problem most of them again is scale. They haven't been proven at scale. They've been kind of proven at an academic level. But if you've got a private blockchain, some people are just saying, okay, let's just do round robin. Let's everyone take a turn, or let's do some sort of random selection of a node that's going to verify it. So there are definitely ways around it, but this is just another piece that needs to feed into what's the best practice, what sort of consensus do we need to use for which scenario.
I think the Bitcoin community are aware of that as an issue, and they're looking at other consensus algorithms other than proof of work.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's even, like Intel, we're looking at specific hardware that will use proof of elapsed. But again, they're places you might be able to buy hardware to run your blockchain on.
Just for Ronan and the Eco Village, if sustainability is at the heart of the village, it seems kind of counterintuitive to be looking at a system that you're going to be dependent on technology, you're going to be dependent on networks, so you're already building a large dependency on things which are completely out of your control to a large degree. And then also with these mining factories, the ecological footprint of this technology is massive. So I don't mean to play devil's advocate, but it is kind of counterintuitive to me.
I think those are very valid questions, and those are concerns that I have in terms of what we've, the conclusions that we've come to in terms of what makes sense for us right now. Actually, elaborated on that a little in the presentation. But the last meeting that I had, a very good discussion, particularly with Ben over there in the corner, where Ben was essentially pointing out that there are unused resources here within the Eco Village, such as the Fab Lab that's behind me here, that is not in use 24/7 when in theory it could be. And there are other places, other businesses and so on that have excess capacity, and then there are people who have skills that they're not applying, but they're not able to engage in commercial transactions because there just isn't enough money to go around, basically. But you could use something like the cryptocurrency to essentially create a question that it raises is if you're doing it on that sort of small scale between a group of people who have existing relationships and trust you with illegal cryptocurrency on top of that to enable that, we could just take monopoly money and stamp the EcoVillage logo on it and work like that. And those are questions that I want to return to and have definitive answers to. But yes, you're right. That's the point I suppose I was making in my intervention earlier. That these become very sophisticated and come with systems that we may not actually want. Again, it is a grand scale. One of the reasons that you do that when you've got a large number of different individuals and organizations involved is because you want that clarity, you need that clarity. If you continue adjusting the rules of the game as you're playing it, it's very hard to coordinate between people. This is one of the points that Josh was making. Look, maybe in a small scale we don't do that. And I think we do need to think about the environmental consequences. But as I said at the outset, I was curious to explore this technology. I think that there's a lot going on in this space. There is a lot of hype certainly around its application for these kinds of localities. I'm very interested in the sort of things that Greg is talking about in terms of backing these technologies with alternative types of values such as food or energy. Is that a way of redirecting the conversation in a direction that surfaces and supports other kinds of values? I suppose that perhaps again something I should have said. I'm skeptical about technology, but I suppose fundamentally I'm cautiously optimistic. I think technology, information technology, can be hugely valuable. It enables an awful lot of things that otherwise wouldn't be possible. An awful lot of EcoVillage would not. I would function in a different way. I think in some ways it might function better, but we certainly would find it much more difficult to coordinate if we didn't have access to online tools and to email and so on. This is a distributed autonomous organization in terms of the way in which it operates. We do end up with a lot of face-to-face meetings, but an awful lot of the back and forth discussion happens by email and through other tools as well. So, there's a delicate balance, there's a delicate line to be walked there between, on the one hand, saying that we're not going to take on board all of the values that are inherent with these external systems, but at the same time, I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Is it part of this conversation, Simon?
Yeah,
before?
it's,
Okay, then come in.
Just to add, because maybe we shouldn't focus on the money aspect of the blockchain for these communities, but for example, use the blockchain as a kind of, consensus system or a voting system or some other aspect of the blockchain. And also, you said in the morning that there are thousands of these communities around the world. It's not only the EcoVillage here in this place, but there are thousands around the world. So what if we use this technology, not the money aspect, but the coordination, these other things, for coordinating between these thousands of these communities around the world, which might be not so small at the end, because we all hope that it will grow and there will be more.
Graham's going to build on that, and then
I mean,
Ron come in, and then we'll go to the next
That's
question.
what people like Colony are working on. I mean, they're actually basically they've got three sort of use cases, but their basic remit is to try and build out and around the blockchain into other things that communities do together, how they handle their institutional interactions and how they put them there. That to me is one of the interesting elements of this, because they're having to work with, to get test customers, they're having to work with different types of communities in different places with different, and they'll be starting to develop a language or a way of looking at the institutions that might actually itself be innovative, and that might actually start to prompt people to organise themselves differently. And that's what interests me about that. Plus the fact that it makes that underlying technology, if it works, more accessible and less of a tech barrier.
Yeah, and I think that the question that someone's asking is really a very good and valid one. And again, something I should have perhaps explained in my presentation is that the original draft proposal was much more ambitious and dealt with, actually was started with these questions around governance. I did what I tend to do with pretty much any piece of research I get involved with. I start big and then I reduce it until it's something manageable. And I looked at early drafts of it and I just thought, there's no way that we're going to be able to do this work within the time and the money that's available. That the particular grant scheme is for a small amount of money, 10,000 And I knew that trying to investigate and implement a blockchain-based governance system in a neighborhood would be really quite a significant undertaking. So I just said, okay, let's just use the idea of a community currency as a way of dipping our toes in and finding out what's going on and learning about this space. The other thing that I mentioned very briefly was Colony, which Graham has mentioned there again. I was in touch with them about their technology. If you're interested in that governance side, it's worth having a look at Colony.io, which is their website. They have a number of presentations online. And what they have is very applicable to our sort of context here, and I can see a lot of uses for that in a lot of my day-to-day work, because an awful lot of what I do as an academic is also loosely coupled organizations, essentially. The reality is, coming back to the point that Gar made there about enterprise level deployment of this technology being several years old, is they're still in essentially a late alpha stage in terms of the technology. I've asked them if I can get access, and they're talking about later this year or spring of next year. I haven't heard anything further from them, so I'm guessing it probably be sometime this time next year before we can really have something that we get our teeth into. A lot of this technology feels to me very much like what the World Wide Web was like in its early years. This is very much like HTML version 1. This is very much like the web was like in 1995 and 1996. If you wanted to do anything sophisticated, you needed to be pretty technical, because you were rolling an awful lot of your own stuff. Now it's much easier. You can get a very good looking website up online within a matter of minutes, essentially. And if you have content, you can put the content up there. What I'm discovering with this project, as with a lot of other things, is there's often not a lot behind that. But it's much easier for people to get stuck in. It's much easier to set up electronic commerce websites, for example. If you want to buy and sell things online, you can do that within a matter of 2 minutes. Again, I built systems like that way back when, and it was much harder. And the frameworks weren't there, the tools weren't there, the experience wasn't there. This is what blockchain feels to me like to me now. I don't know, Gary, you might have thoughts on that, but I think that in a couple of years' time, when these when this work becomes more sophisticated, it will become much easier for people to do this. The key question that I have is the extent to which that the frameworks that will be developed will be ones that are suitable for adoption by small communities like this, which don't have the same level of expertise and skill, who won't have, for example, people that can to work on these things full time. Because a large organization will have dedicated IT people. A community like this doesn't. How can we create a space in which they can go, okay, well, I'm going to adopt this and I've picked a few things here, and now we have our online voting system or our online discussion system functioning in a way that actually supports our particular communities and is in keeping with our values.
I think it's interesting. We're going to just continue. I'm going to bring Greg in before you come in, Coleman. But someone
Just been answered.
has it?
Yeah.
Well, maybe think of someone else. Well, our community for the last 7 or 8 years has been really looking at different ways to organise ourselves. Not jumping into technology that can help us to organise ourselves, but a way that we structure ourselves, our different working groups, our different processes to allow us to move away from command and control, which is for so many communities, so many companies, the way that we are working. To give more autonomy to the individual, to the collective groups that are working with expertise in different areas. So that's a cybernetics tool, viable systems model. There's other tools, holacracy, sociocracy, developing. These aren't technological tools, but they could be supported by technological tools to make that easier for those interactions, the cohesion in our communities, in our cooperatives, in our businesses that is absolutely missing right now. So I see there's a big potential in exploring, maybe not Bitcoin, I agree with you, there's overhyped, as we've seen many times. There's lots of things you could do with a relational database or some other bit of technology that we don't need to be mining the blockchain. But there is something there that could allow us, I think, to have more flourishing communities by having systems, information systems that allow us to work better together. Greg?
Yeah, well, just following on from that, obviously the key thing is to keep it simple and to keep the administration to a minimal. We did have one attempt at a clock penny structure in the early days, but it was top heavy from a labour perspective, and then you had people who were diligent in recording their hours that they spent and other people that weren't. But maybe we just discussed briefly at the last break, particularly Richard Douthwaite's concept of 3 different types of money storage of value, transaction, and I can't remember the third one. But maybe in that context in the afternoon that, for this community currency based in Jordan, as to bring that concept into, well, is this currency a good method of storing value, or is it a good method of actually transaction type process, or whatever the third one is. So again, just trying to keep it to having a productive and a successful outcome that we can pilot based on.
Just one of the ideas we want to generate is maybe ideas for local currencies, but this afternoon is not limited to that. I mean, your field is distributed energy. Greg works for CRES, which is one of the only sort of community approaches to looking at how we not only generate our electricity, and Greg works for a company that the only community-owned turbines, but how we move to a decentralized, distributed, networked energy grid. Now, blockchain, because there'll be fast interactions happening between different users, generators. There's all sorts of potential there that we could start exploring the use of these technologies to help us facilitate. So it's not just about currency, as Simon's talked about there. There's governance has been talked about, distribution of energy. We can see a lot more benefits to our communities and local places than just an exchange or a currency system. So we've got a few minutes to go. The fruit has arrived, so we don't need to labour this discussion. But I do want to make sure that any unanswered questions to Gareth or Ronan, or even to any of the other speakers. Paddy.
It's not so much unanswered questions I want to bring up, but I thought there were 2 themes that emerged in Joshua's talk and in Graham's talk that certainly rang bells for me. And that is, Joshua was talking, the critique that Mark Boyle has made about money and its relationship in terms of interrelationships in society. In other words, what money does to the cohesiveness of society, and what moving into other forms of media of exchange might do to strengthen community cohesion. I mean, his basic argument is if we depend upon our social interactions, I mean, beyond the immediate social interactions of family and friends, etc., on intermediaries that effectively are based upon the fact that I'm going to get back from you as much as I give to you, and only when I do am I going to give something to you, we're obviously weakening social cohesion and weakening resilience. This becomes pertinent in the context of climate change. And then Graham's point, which really resonates with Carl Polanyi's long work in economic anthropology, about the way in which he argued, and he has books on this, that all societies before the British Industrial Revolution had strong gift-giving elements to the ways in which people interacted with each other, and if not, very strong redistributive mechanisms, like the Inca Empire, for example, which I've seen myself. All the storehouses, you can still see them in the Andes, where they put aside 1/3 of their produce every year in case of famine, etc. So I think the question it raises for me is, how can we develop technologies that allow us to move into, effectively, these sort of gift-giving, a society based on gift-giving. I think that's a really important dimension of building resilient societies as we face into possible civilizational collapse.
Great. Graham, you're going to build on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely fundamental, because that to me is one of the huge unanswered questions, is how does any sort of new sort of money engineering sit alongside non-monetized transactions? Because the tendency now is that people are taking those non-monetized transactions and quantifying them. They may not always monetize them, but they're quantifying them so that they're actually more, you can compare this and you can compare that. So like natural capital, social capital, and so on. And I think that, it's a huge question, and I'm not sure it's got any answers, but, you don't want, for example, another good example is reputation. Reputation in most communities is something that's qualitative and so on. You know, eBay turns it into a metric. Yeah, I mean, so there's this tendency to put numbers on everything, what David Boyle called the tyranny of numbers. You know? And I think that you're absolutely right, that if you can make any progress at all in the way that sort of qualitative societal interaction can coexist, because it's going to have to, I think, with, you know, the monetized world, you would be doing everybody a favour. You know?
But Roman and Gary have anything to say about that from your own work.
One thing I would just like to say in response to what Graham is saying there is one of the things we need to be particularly careful about when we start to reduce anything, whether it's social interactions or social measures or the rest of the natural world that we interact with. Once we start reducing those to numbers, then we end up playing different kinds of games with those. This is Goodhart's law, some of you may have heard of. I forget exactly how it's formulated, but essentially, once a particular form of measurement becomes important, it is then subject to attack. I think he was a professor of economics, and he was talking in the context of the devaluation of the British pound in the 70s. Graham might be able to correct me.
I was just going to say that, you know, we used to say if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. You know, you say if you can measure it, it can be gamed.
Yes, this is the point, that these things then become gamed in some way. So, and eBay's, the way eBay manages repetition is really fascinating, because they've managed to create this global marketplace where you're willing to buy and sell from people in faraway countries that you never would interact with at all. And by and large, it seems to work relatively well. I mean, there is fraud in eBay, but they deal with it pretty well. But at the same time, you can see how the participants in that system game that system.
Yeah.
And they will bend over backwards to make sure that if you're unhappy, they solve that, so they don't end up with negative scores. But that negative score doesn't necessarily mean that the product that you're purchasing is actually what you want, or is necessarily going to be good quality. The focus in terms of that score is simply on this
Behavior.
Is generally about the speed with which they respond to you and solve your problems. It doesn't necessarily. It seems to function in a lot of ways quite well. I'm not knocking eBay necessarily, but it's one metric for one particular form of behavior that eBay seeks to enhance. Again, this is my question about the ontology and the ontology of blockchain. What's it trying to actually measure? What kind of world is it trying to produce? And are those things that we're necessarily comfortable with? Ultimately, I think that pretty much any human system after a while becomes a game. It's something that we like doing. We like rules, and then we like playing with those rules and working around those rules. Sometimes we're putting more effort into working around the rules of the game than actually playing the game the way it's supposed to be played. Although we would get more sort of reward for doing it the way it's supposed to. It's just a tendency, I think, of human nature to do.
Gareth Potter asked if you had any thoughts on this.
Not really. I guess we're so focused on, like, we don't have that much of a engineering focus. It's very much in the enterprise side.
And yeah, there's no jobs on a dead planet, as the unions have said recently. Potter has raised the alarm this morning with probably 20 years to make a turnaround of HP, and everyone isn't in this game, then there's no more game. So we'll have an opportunity here, because we have people from different sectors. We're outside our comfort zone in some areas. We're very comfortable with some other areas. And we have an opportunity this afternoon to work together to see if we can generate some ideas to move these sort of ideas we've explored this morning a little further, potentially with further research funding, to explore the potential of blockchain technology specifically, but technology to underpin a transition to more sustainable, equitable, resilient communities going forward to what will be, as Potter has highlighted in his presentation, a little very challenging times. So well done on all the speakers this morning, and well done on all to keep your focus. One thing that we're very proud of here in Cloughjordan is our food ecology. We have orchards, nut groves, edible landscapes, research gardens, our own farm, and to introduce our food from our new co-op, which is on the main street, Middle Country Cafe, and also one half of a business called Cloughjordan, which is an egg business on our community farm. we have Paul to introduce our lunch. Paul.
How you doing? Okay, so what you got for lunch today is as many local ingredients as possible. We've got quiches made with the hens, which you might see later on, from their eggs, should I say. We have beetroot and feta salad. Beetroot grown from the farm. It also contains cashew nuts, if anyone's got a nut allergy. We've got another carrot salad from the farm with seeds and dried fruit. And we have bread, which is sourdough bread baked in the local white rye bakehouse in the Basin Eco Village. So yeah, Sinead.
Thank you. Thanks Paul. Before we move into that, we're going to take about half an hour to refuel ourselves with this beautiful lunch. For those who wish it, we're going to do a short tour, and then we're going to come back with coffees before we start the idea generating session. Thank you.